If you're an atheist, I want to challenge you.
I'll accept your challenge, but I hope you understand what an atheist is. An atheist is someone who does not believe in invisible men who cannot be observed, tested, or proven to exist.
If you've ever been in a 6th grade science class, you know science is built on cause and effect. Every experiment assumes that if something begins, something caused it. That is Physics 101.
Sure, effects have causes. So if a ball is stationary and it starts moving, something caused it to move. Not necessarily someone, but something caused the ball to move. And we can know that something caused the ball to move without knowing what caused the ball to move. It could have been a person, it could have been the wind, it could have been an earthquake, or it could have been something that we don't know.
So the first question I need to ask to make my argument is, did the universe begin to exist?
I personally do not know if the universe began to exist. We have evidence that goes back 14 billion years, and that's a really long time. And you have to be very careful not to just insert God for whatever we don't know. That's called the God of the gaps. I think we need to clarify that we're talking about the observable universe.
So if we now apply the assumption of cause and effect, we see that whatever begins to exist has a cause. If the universe began to exist, it had a cause. So what is that cause?
We don't know. It is reasonable to assume there was a cause to the universe. But it's not reasonable to assume that an invisible man outside of space, time, and matter snapped his fingers and caused it to come into existence through magic.
Here's what we can eliminate about this cause. The cause of space cannot be spatial because space itself did not exist prior to the universe. The cause of time cannot be temporal because time began with the universe. And the cause of matter cannot be material because matter itself came into existence at the very beginning as well.
So if God is spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, that means he is nothing, nowhere, and never. We have no evidence that anything can exist outside of space, time, and matter. It is a pure assumption with no foundation.
Now let's dive into the Big Bang real quick. I believe in the Big Bang, but first we have to realize that the Big Bang describes the expansion of the universe, not a big boom in space. However, what the Big Bang does not explain is why there was something rather than nothing. And when I say nothing, I do not mean a vacuum, I do not mean particles, I don't mean any quantum fields. I mean nothing. No space, time, matter, laws, nothing. So from nothing, nothing comes.
Correct. The Big Bang does not even postulate why we have something rather than nothing. But you need to understand that it is an error to assume that the state of anything was nothing before the Big Bang. No one actually thinks there was nothing before the Big Bang. Theists postulate that there was a God before the Big Bang. But honest people simply say, I don't know what was before the Big Bang. Because the Big Bang is only an explanation of what we can observe in nature.
Science tells us how things behave. It does not tell us why there is a universe governed by laws. The existence of orderly, consistent physical laws points to a rational structure. Rational structure points to a mind.
I don't understand your point here. Just because the universe is governed by consistent laws in no way points to a mind behind it. In fact, I think it's the opposite. If the universe was not consistent, then I would say there was something behind the changing and fluctuating laws of nature rather than having consistent, stable, predictable laws of nature. Let me give you an example. Let's use the ball that we brought up earlier. If a ball is sitting stationary on a table and it never moves, there's no reason to think that there is a mind behind forcing the ball to stay still. It's staying still because there's no force acting on it to make it move. But if the ball would randomly move sometimes and other times it wouldn't, we would need to assume that there's something causing the ball to move, even if we don't understand what it is. But if the ball stays still and consistent because it's not sinking through the table or rolling without any forces being applied to it, there's no reason to assume that a mind is behind the ball sitting still and stationary and consistent.
So if you're an atheist, please answer my question. What is your theory on how the universe, on how time and how space began? And if you use anything that is outside the physical system or is eternal, realize that you are describing what most theistic people describe as God.
The answer is I don't know, and I don't even have a theory. I don't even know if space, time, and matter had a beginning. That's an assumption. It's a philosophical concept. And what you need to understand is you don't know either. God is simply a philosophical concept designed to fill a gap in the lack of our knowledge. We do not know the origin of the universe, or even if there was an origin of the universe. So this whole time throughout this video, you've simply been pointing out the things that we don't know and don't understand, and that you assert that there is some sort of unknowable, unobservable, unprovable being outside of space, time, and matter that does things that we cannot observe or test or prove. And rather than assume that there is a being who does something that we cannot see, test, observe, or prove, atheists simply stop with, I don't know, and I'm going to reserve judgment until we have more information. And what I can do, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is prove that the God of the Bible is fake and created by men, and the Bible is completely inconsistent and unreliable. And I have absolutely no fear whatsoever that any God is going to punish me after I die because I do not believe in something that I cannot see, observe, or prove. When I can actually prove that the God that most of you believe in is absolutely false and powerless and fake and imaginary and useless. And when you're threatening people with punishment if they don't believe in your fake, powerless God, that makes you an evil person. And it reveals that you're worshiping an evil God. If you want to know how I know that the God of the Bible is fake, I've written 2 books, and I recommend Jesus Demigod, Putting the Lord on Trial, for the most direct answers to your questions.